On the line, I have Patrick O'Flynn. Patrick, thank you for joining us this morning. Patrick is Patrick is currently a member of the European Parliament. He was elected as a UKIP candidate, but has since defected to the SDP. That's right, the Social Democratic Party, which was formed in 1981 and which still exists. Now, Patrick, given that the SDP still exists, why didn't the 7 Labour MPs who left Labour yesterday simply join the SDP? Why set up the independent group?
Well, the blunt truth there is that they've set up a group to try and hijack and derail Brexit. The SDP, since the late 80s, has been a Eurosceptic party, albeit a very small one, and campaigned in the referendum to get us out of the European Union. And the SDP, which I belong to, is fully committed to the referendum result being respected, and thinks unless we get a much better offer from the EU, of which there's no sign, that we should simply leave on WTO terms on March the 29th. So that's not what Chucker and his little splinter is all about.
Understood. So the SDP, which is the same party that was set up by the Gang of Four who left the Labour Party in 81, is a pro-Brexit political party. But is it left of centre on issues like crime, on welfare issues, public services, the NHS, issues like that?
Well, I would say on crime, most of the people I've been speaking to, and we're working on a policy production very soon, think that the establishment parties have gone too soft on crime, and in the House of Commons there's nobody speaking up for punishment of criminals and the deterrent effect that prison can have, and everything is loaded on the offender, preoccupation with the offender, and a sort of naive view that everyone can be rehabilitated. So I think policies you'll see from us will be quite tough on law and order, and we think there's a gap there. In terms of public services, we're foursquare behind the NHS. We think it deserves more money spent on it. We think the austerity that George Osborne brought in has gone on for too long, and there is scope now for higher public spending, partly funded by higher taxes on the wealthiest in our society. So I suppose you would say on economic issues we're a bit to the left of centre.
So that's interesting. So the SDP is left of centre on economic issues, but perhaps right of centre on social issues.
I would say.
And that's in contrast to the policy platform, insofar as it has one, of this new political bloc, the independent group, which gives the impression of being left of centre on social issues. They talked about social justice at their launch in the House of Commons yesterday, but no indication that they are left of centre on economic issues. Indeed, that's one of the major points of departure between them and the Corbynites. But all the polling indicates that where there's a space for a new political party in the UK, it's in the position that you're in, left of centre on economic issues, right of centre on domestic issues, not the space that the independent group is in. So why do you think that they haven't veered more towards what you're offering? Why have they bothered to set up this new group? I mean, once Brexit's out the way, I can't see there being much to kind of rally people behind their particular cause.
Well, I think that, to use a slightly old-fashioned term, they're Blairites, aren't they? And they believe, in lax immigration controls, soft on crime. They're fairly economically liberal and market-orientated. To me, they're kind of washed up sort of view of politics from 10 years ago that they're trying to revive, and I can't really see a single major political area where they have any difference with the Liberal Democrats. So I thought the space they're occupying, I think, is a kind of vapid form of centrism that's lost a lot of credibility with the British people. And I think the new, more muscular centrism that the SDP represents focuses very much on, let's pay a bit more respect to our nation state as the way we organise, our social solidarity, the way we produce public services. Let's have a little bit more affiliation to our own citizens, not doing down citizens of other countries, but let's realise that the British government's primary purpose is to improve the condition of the British people, and their obligation is to this country first. So, for instance, we'll be looking at, the foreign aid arbitrary rule that it must always have 0.7% of GDP, and whether that's justified or not, and I certainly don't think it is. But you can expect Chucker's splinter will be four square, along with all the other Westminster parties, behind that sort of arbitrary virtue signalling target.
And Patrick, any evidence of more defections to your group, to the SDP? I know they've got an MEP, they've got you. Have they got any councillors? Any suggestion that an MP might be about to come over?
Well, I keep in touch with MPs who see, the world more the way we do. And, as I say, what's happened with Chucker and his splinter group has kind of opened up the possibility, hasn't it? Everything's in a great state of flux. I feel that the two old main established parties are kind of locked together in the polls, mainly, and it's mainly due to the number of people who loathe one party a bit more than they dislike the other. I don't think there are many very enthusiastic Tories or even that many very enthusiastic traditional Labour voters at the moment. They're just sort of opting, when they're rung up by the pollsters, to say one or the other, because they see, for instance, Labour people might see it as a way of the only way to keep the Tories out, and vice versa. So, under first past the post and our fairly stitched up political system, getting enough traction to really get going and getting registered in the polls is a formidable target. A formidable set of hurdles has to be cleared. But I do feel that if we can get and communicate the ideas of the SDP to the British people, there's a huge potential audience for that.
OK, thank you very much. That's Patrick O'Flynn, a member of the European Parliament for the SDP. That's right, the political group that broke away from the Labour Party in 1981 and which still exists. It'll be interesting to see whether the independent group still exists in 38 years' time. Don't go away. In a moment.